Average Podcast.
For years, history has been present in human society. Roughly 738 years to be technical. And over this time, people have come and gone and done their own little bits of history, meaning there is quite a lot of history by now. But some scoundrels have tarnished the good name of history for their own devious means. And now, you can't tell what history is real and what history is the opposite of real. What's that? Approaching from the well-lit studio apartment. It's Eggs and Fish, here to set the record straight.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Eggs and Fish, hosted by yours truly, Alfie Ford and Henry Barker.
That's me. Welcome back, everybody.
So, today, we asked you guys last week with our first episode, which went really, really well.
Last week.
It was last week. Yeah, let's not talk about that. We kind of took a break this month of August. It being my birth month, you know, I was like, hey, well, I don't need to...
But never assume that we were not working hard on our return.
Yeah, no. Well, as you would have noticed,
we were plotting.
As you would have noticed, we've got new intros for both the Average Podcast, Average Chat, and we have it for Eggs and Fish now. So there's nice new music blessing your ears. Speaking of which, we wanted to say a big thank you to Onge, mine and Henry's friend, who put together the music for both Eggs and Fish and the Average Podcast intros. He's been amazing. Make sure to follow him at Barnstorming on Instagram. And yeah, thank you very much to Onge. But when we finished our last podcast, we asked for some suggestions, and I put it out on the Instagram page, which you obviously go follow. And we got a good few. Some Henry didn't like. Henry did like.
Okay. I'm just gonna say it now. I'm never doing the Titanic. All right. If you think you want a Titanic episode, you really don't. The Titanic sucks as a topic, and I can't believe you'd ever want me to talk about it.
You do realise that's...
I can't believe I'm taking up my time now talking about the Titanic.
I want you to know that's kind of a Chekhov's gun. We will do the Titanic one
No,
day.
we're not. It's never happening. No.
Okay, but we did get some good ones, and one of which we are doing today, is the Library of Alexandria!
Oh, that's spooky. Oh, it's interesting.
It's very interesting. As we've mentioned, me and Henry are avid historians.
Henry and I.
Oh, always getting me with that. Christ, Henry. But yeah, so we obviously know everything, and so we wish to bless you with our knowledge of the burning, the life
of the Library of... Well, you know.
All of it.
The life and times of
the life and death
the Library of Alexandria.
Of Alexandria.
If I accidentally say lighthouse a couple of times, don't call me out on Twitter.
Please do. Okay.
Don't.
Now, the story of the Library of Alexandria. Chapter 1. George Benson B. So to begin with, I just want to clarify something that's not often... So,
yeah.
We're not going to cover the building, the resurrection of the Library of Alexandria, because no one knows how that happened.
That's so silly. It's so silly that you'd want us to talk about it, because anyone else who's ever claimed to know how it was built, they're wrong.
They have a mental illness. That's what they have. It's called being dumb. They're stupid, and they come up with these theories, and they're nothing more than that, theories. And here at Eggs and Fish, we produce hard, cold facts. So
we just love facts.
Yeah. So we won't dabble in any like conspiracy theories or what. So it was discovered. It was discovered by a man. Well, when he first discovered, it was actually a boy. The boy known as George Benson B.
Yes,
George Benson B. Now, George Benson B was a troubled child in his youth, growing up in poverty with his mother, Julia Benson B, and Michael Gambit Benson B. Yeah, so now, growing up in this squalor was quite hard for the family, and they often struggled for food, and it was down to, the boy whose name is George Benson B.
Who would often shout at night, "Give me the night!
Give me the night!" That's what he'd say.
Yes.
Yeah, he did that. So yeah, he would often steal food for his family, and would often be berated by the police, local authority, all of them.
It's a real rags to riches story.
Oh yeah, you'll go and see the rise of George Benson B. So, on one occasion, George Benson B was out running from the police. Now, it'd been a hard day of stealing for George Benson B. He'd stolen, I think at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, Henry, it was 5 loaves of bread.
Well, yes, famously 5 loaves of bread and 6 sticks of butter.
Yes.
Which were, the Kerrygold butter, of course.
Yeah, well, what else?
That was his favourite.
Yeah. Because there's some, as we mentioned before, some conspiracy theories about why 5 bread but 6 butter.
People have tried to look into it, but I think it's one of those things where it is just that's just what he got. So, there's no subliminal message there. No. Because
there's some people who try, because the number 5 and number 6 come up heavily throughout this whole story.
They do.
Number 5 and 6
You're going to get bored of us saying that.
Yeah, you're going to get really tired, because it comes up a lot, and some people try to draw connections which aren't there. So, after stealing this butter and bread, he'd been running from the police, who had found him almost immediately. And so, he grew up in, we haven't even mentioned the country, which is obviously, Henry, let's say it together, Egypt. And so everyone knows that Egypt is known for its thick forests. So George Benson B was running through these forests, the brush cutting across his face. He actually was scarred for life after this one intrepid run away from the police, and he made it into a clearing where, for the first time, but certainly not the last time, George Benson B came across the Library of Alexandria. He saw it and you know,
at the time he didn't know it was a library. He just saw that's a cool building.
It was a fuck off large building. And for a boy of only 12, this was quite the find. See, as I meant,
12 years, 5 months, 6 days.
That's exactly the truth. Yes. yes. So as he arrived in this clearing, obviously, what are you gonna do? As a boy of 12, 5 months and 6 days, you need a place to hide from these police. So he rushes into the building. Now
he assumes it's just a regular building. Yeah. He assumes
everyone knows this building.
This.
You know, this is probably the town hall. I've just never ran into it before because I'm poor and I don't like town halls.
Little scamp.
Yeah. So he ran in there, evading the police, and he actually spent a good few hours in there, but the police never came. The police, obviously, the 56th Battalion, trying to capture him, because they were actually assigned to George Benson B, and lots of other rap scouts.
He was quite notorious.
He was quite notorious. He
had a little gang.
Yes,
in Alexandria.
Yes. Which was obviously known as the BBs, the BB gang.
The BB gang.
BB gang. So BB gang, notorious, had the 56th Battalion on their ass all the time. Yeah. So it's where we get into these few hours that George Benson B stayed in this. Can you hear the helicopter?
The government are getting close.
They want to know the truth. So, as he entered the big marble-clad entrance of the library. Notoriously, the only stone part of the library. The rest made out of wood.
Yeah.
So he entered. massive pillars at his side. As George Benson B searched around this library, he saw these massive rows upon rows of bookshelves, half filled, and for a town of Alexandria with the population of 56, he there was
wow, that's really a whole battalion in Alexandria.
Yeah, whole battalion. Yeah. It wasn't like a large battalion, but it was like they were very beefy men.
5.6 men.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. All 5'6". So so he noticed that these bookshelves, half filled, still this massive library it had at least 10,000 books in, which was way too many for a town of 56. That's ridiculous. How
would they have all those books?
That makes no sense. And also it was a very very dumb town. They didn't read. They were more of like a farming town. They liked their livestock. And so, as we previously mentioned, there was a rise to George Benson B. And so what he did, after finding this library, he left his life of crime, and he became rich on selling books. These books and hiring these books out and bringing the whole town of 56 one day in one. So one day, right, Henry? You remember this part? Yeah. You remember this part?
Yeah. The one day.
That one day. You remember that one day on the what was the date? It was the
it was the 5th of June.
Yeah, it was the 5th of June. So
because it was the 5th
obviously.
Yeah.
So he brought the town of 56 to see the library. And what he did was he started to run it without even knowing the pure inner workings of the library. He hadn't even traversed 1/8 of the library. That's how much was still left, and he was working that shit. He made that library his bitch. At least the first corridor of that library was George Benson B's bitch.
Which is crazy also because most people couldn't read. They were just taking it out for they thought it was like little paintings and drawings and things.
Yeah, they liked the pictures. Yeah, the town of Alexandria. So after that, people from all around came to view the random library that no one could explain. Elders who had lived in the town for ages could not explain where this came from. They had no clue. So everyone was just very intrigued by this library, and so it began to grow and grow and grow. Chapter 2: The Gremlins.
So, the library, people thought it was great. And industry was booming. As the population of Alexandria grew from 56 to 560 to 5,600 and eventually to 56,000.
Yes, in a matter of months. 5 months.
This is what a good book can do, people. Get learned.
Come on, read like me and Henry. All me and Henry do all day is read.
I just love read. And by now the library staff had increased, interestingly, not to a 5 or a 6,
no,
but to a 6 and a 5.
And see, that's where me and Henry obviously take problem with these people trying to make these theories.
There's not that many 56s about.
Come on, there's a 65 here.
Yeah, 65. Look at it. Anyway. These 65 librarians started to form a little bit of a clique. Yeah. They're kind of elitist in the sense they were, we control the best library ever. We've got so many books. Have you any idea what kind of books we got here? We've got all of the Harry Potters.
Every single one.
All of the Twilights.
Yeah.
Elon Musk's autobiography, you know?
Well, yeah.
We've got Crime and Punishment.
Yeah.
We've got Mein Kampf.
They actually didn't say that one that often. They weren't that proud of Mein Kampf. I mean, of course, they didn't know what it was at the time.
No.
They were. Yeah. You've got to give them. You can't be too harsh on them because they didn't really understand. It was It was
early days.
Yeah, it's a bit before their time.
Back in the 1700s.
They had lots of things in the book. They had in the library.
Yeah.
Well,
my favorite section, I personally am a romance novel kind of guy. So my favorite ones were that of 50 Shades. Obviously, you also have they had massive
exponential.
Massive.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had all of the Hunger Gameses.
Yeah. Divergent. That was a book.
It was great.
Maze Runner.
Hillary Rodham Clinton's book.
Bill Clinton's book. Trump's way to get rich. That's one.
The Art of the
Deal.
Art of the Deal. Classic. That was front and center for quite a while.
That was their prized possession.
How else do you think the library boomed if they hadn't read the Art of the Deal?
Yeah. So the 65, if I remember correctly, was that led by George Benson Beattie, and he had his. Well,
this is George Benson B. Unfortunately, after a while, vanished. We don't really know what happened to George Benson B. But there have been a couple of theories.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't want to get into speculation here because, of course, we are only about facts.
Cold facts.
Nothing you will hear on this podcast is anything but a fact. But there have been some pretty solid reports, albeit a lot of people don't want to believe it. But so supposedly, these librarians sometimes would work late shifts and sometimes overnight shifts.
Yes.
And the library, of course, was endless. No one knew quite how far it went. There were just books, eternal books forever. But occasionally you would get the odd librarian go missing. George B. Benson, of course, the most famous.
Yes.
And look, this is going to sound crazy.
Okay. Well,
but there have been many reports of the book Gremlins. Now, the book Gremlins, no one quite knows where they came from. Many theories suggest that they're the ones who built the library in the first place. Because its origins, of course, are unknown and no one has really had proper interaction with the book Gremlins. But the book Gremlins own the library.
Yes.
And if you tread a little too far into their territory when it's a bit late, you might hear a bit of and soon there won't be much left of you because they are ravenous.
Because obviously at the time there were no cameras, nothing like that. But there have been some paintings and some recorded notes of what they look like. And I think we have a source here, Henry, if you want to read the source material of what these creatures look like.
Yes. Okay. This is from Jethro McJethro.
Oh gosh. Poor soul. He was never the same after the Gremlin incident.
Yeah, most of it's been translated from different frequencies of his screaming, because he basically got really his own feces and just smeared it on the ground and drew this horrible gremlin with rhino horns for teeth. A massive afro.
Yes.
And 3 evil eyes, which is they think the third eye is what founded is the symbol of Hinduism, of course, and the Illuminati.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course. There's the idea again, theories and such. The Gremlins have been tied into a lot of conspiracy theories as of late.
But most people will tell you to stop looking because there's nothing to find.
Nope.
But I think us historians know that there is actually something to find there. I think you can't ignore the ramblings of Jethro McJethro.
No, there was because what his job obviously was that of mayor of Alexandria, and so his word was respected as it should be. As a respected member of society, we should take his word for it and believe that these gremlins had afros.
They did.
And they were there.
There are a lot of other accounts of people seeing them out of the corner of their eyes, and just hearing a bit of
so much.
That's just a noise. People think it's a language. We're not too sure.
It's yet to be decided.
Unfortunately, because of what we'll get into, the fact that the spoiler alert, the library is no longer there.
Yeah.
We'll never quite know what those gremlins were. And there are also a lot of reports of restricted book sections.
Yes.
Again, leaning into more conspiracy theories, in that there was some information that the gremlins held that was a bit just too secret for
us. We had uncovered it.
Us of this planet to know, suggesting that perhaps the gremlins were aliens.
Boom.
Very, very likely.
Boom.
I don't see any reason to dispute it.
No.
I think.
I say that's more fact than fiction.
Yeah.
I'd say that's another eggs and fish hard cold fact.
Aliens are real, and they built the Library of Alexandria.
Yep. Yes.
And they all died.
Did. And they all died in what will become to be known as the burning
of the Library of Alexandria. I almost said lighthouse.
Chapter 3. A Caesar Predicament. So, as previously mentioned by Henry,
cut forward a couple of years, by the way.
Yeah, we're cutting forward. The Gremlins were rumored at the time. The missing people from the Gremlins had been rumored. People had heard these things, and they heard about these restricted sections where the information that could do wonders for the world was hidden. And so we cut forward a few fucking years, 56 to be precise. You have Caesar Romeo. That's not his name.
Yeah, he was from Rome. I know it's a little joke you do, because you're a Roman historian at heart. That's where your heart lives.
That's my heart lives in Rome. Caesar Romero. That's my pet name for him. It's very cute. So very Caesar cute. grew angry. Caesar wasn't one to not want. Caesar wanted that good information.
Chill out, Caesar.
Come on, calm down. Come on. Let's share the information. You don't need all of it.
Come on, Caesar. Let's go home, mate. You've had a bit too much,
easy.
man.
So on one visit, Caesar visited Alexandria in Egypt, and he brought his three trusty men. His three trusty spies that would go on to spark what would inevitably become the burning. So his three trusty spies, by the name of the first one, Gregory Von. Gregory Von was a stoic man, a man of 6'5".
Sneaky all the same, though.
Oh, of course. Very light-footed, like a cat. Like if a lion were a cat, I'd say.
If a lion were a cat,
that would be Gregory Von. So Gregory Von, very bushy-haired. He never really wasn't one to speak, but when he did, you heard. You know. Then we have Hilary Duff. Now Hilary Duff, quite the opposite. Imagine her as the of Mice and Men. The what was it?
Lenny?
Lenny? No. So Gregory Von is Lenny.
Okay.
And then what's
George.
George. Imagine the George to his Lenny. So Hilary
of Mice and Men also is it was in the Library of Alexandria.
Oh, of course, as well as many other classics such as Great Expectations and Macbeth, as well as
Oliver Twist.
Oh, and of course, how could we
Pride
forget
and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice, as well as War and Peace.
The list goes on. Wolf Hall.
Okay, so, yeah, Hilary Duff, a very calculated woman, very sharp in her features. Her nose could pierce that of your eye if she got close enough, but she never did. She was from afar, and she was calculating everything. She was very calculated.
People feared it, though.
Oh, of course.
People were always saying, oh, God, hope Hillary doesn't come and poke my eye out with her nose.
Yeah, spiky nose woman. And then the third,
Unfortunate.
possibly the most influential to spark this war, this battle, this burning, was that of Damien Day. Damien Day. The name. Don't forget it, because it's gonna come up again and again as he continues to fuck up. See, Damien Day was a bit of a bumbly boy. He tended to just fall into situations, but that tended to be quite good, and Caesar kept him around as he tended to fall into these situations where things would go very well for him. Would go very well for Rome and for Caesar.
So, do you want to talk about their visit to Alexandria?
Yes,
and, what they got up to while they were there.
So it was very important that everything went well for Caesar. Caesar didn't want anyone to know that he was plotting to be taking any of this information, trying to steal anything in any way. So Caesar remained in the good graces of Alexandria, because Alexandria had I love Caesar. He's like a celebrity there. So once he arrived, he was greeted with wines and crackers and bread and butter.
By the common folk, we should add, not by the library staff.
Oh no, the library staff smelled something fishy.
Yes. I mean, the head librarian at the time was a woman called Leandra Gray.
Yeah.
She was, a very complicated character, because she would be very friendly to you. She could talk to you sweetly for hours, but then if you were to so much as blink the wrong way, she would ignite all hellfire upon you.
Yeah.
And you might die.
Yeah, I'd say she's scarier than some of the present day's scariest.
Yes,
women, such
but
as,
she, we're not going there.
No.
So she mainly ran the library with her son, Dylan Gray, who was just the most stupid man you'll ever meet. He was a heavy smoker. You could always spot him with a pack of Marlboro and a clipper,
always.
just always in the corner of the rooms.
Like
Yeah,
a chimney.
he wasn't especially built. If anything, he was a bit on the chubby side.
A bit of a chubster.
Yeah. Poor, Dylan basically was there for nepotism's sake.
Got to get a job when you're 16.
Yeah, and he also was quite the deviant. He was just the wrong kind of person. He was always bringing he was always bringing women from brothels back to the restricted
library. Like, why?
To the library. I know. He was going to desecrate that incredible place of learning with his filthy
foul
acts.
scent. Horrible.
Absolutely.
Disgusting.
Dylan, the heavy chongin, just heavy man.
It's just a very heavy man.
Yeah, and he had been asked by his mother to keep an eye on the Roman spies because, Leandra didn't trust Caesar at all.
No.
She saw Alexandria. She saw them give him wine and flowers and everything, and she thought, I don't trust this guy. This guy's got a weird little glint in his eyes. His eyes are too close together,
Yeah, that was the thing known about Caesar. His eyes were very close. My Caesar Romero.
Yeah.
So,
I know you hate it when I say that his eyes are too close together.
yeah, no, I think he's handsome, but Henry.
Okay.
Henry thinks otherwise.
I'm just saying what history's told me.
Okay, yeah, but that doesn't mean you have to, like, shame him.
You're bringing a lot of personalised views into this,
sorry.
Alfie. We're only about facts, goddammit. Stay
sorry.
on track!
Okay, so... Where were we? As they arrived, Caesar went into the palace. He partied for days on end. Before he did so, he instructed his spies to check out the place. And they did so. For 3 separate days, they scoped out this place. On the first day, it was Gregory Vaughan and Hilary Duff went to scope it, leaving Damien Day at home, sleeping in his bed, which he did often do, because when you have so much chaos that you bring, it comes with a lot of sleep after and beforehand to charge you up. So he was sleeping for the first 2 days. And the first 2 days went very well. They scoped it out. They were very chill. The stoic Gregory Vaughan noticed the various exits and entrances. He kept mark of all the staff. Obviously, Dylan was marked down, as well as his mother. Yeah, what a lovely lady. So, and then on the second day, Hilary Duff had started getting closer to the restricted section, and she started hearing the and she heard it, and she was very intrigued, and she brought that back to Caesar. On the third day, they brought Damien Day. Now, Damien Day, as mentioned, a wild card, someone you didn't know what was going to happen with him. So they walked into the building, all 3 of them. They all went their separate ways. But Damien Day walked out of the place. Now, Hilary Duff and Gregory Vaughan had been told to always trust what he does. Caesar was like, just, if he does something, he's doing it for a reason. Okay, so they kept walking, and Damien Day went outside. Now, he pulled out a cigarette, started smoking. And then who should appear next to him but Dylan Gray.
Dylan Gray.
And Henry, if you want to recollect the conversation that Damien and Dylan had.
One of the most important conversations in human history, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd have to say so.
Because Dylan Gray revealed a little too much. Because, we know Dylan Gray's been in the halls of the library.
Oh, he's been everywhere.
Doing his foul
disgusting
deeds.
Sex with prostitutes.
It was
every section. The children's section, which contained books by Dora the Explorer, and
I really don't want to recount it. It just makes me feel sick.
He was a very heavy man.
Yes, Damien Gray, or not Damien Day. Sorry, their names are very similar. I don't know why we do this to ourselves. He did always somehow manage to just find things out, as you mentioned before. And Dylan Gray just started going off about the Gremlins.
Just non-stop, just kept going.
He was. Now, it's disputed as to whether Dylan Gray actually knew anything about the Gremlins, for of course he was a bit of a stupid oaf.
It up.
Yeah.
Some people believe he was making it up.
However, he recounted so much about them because, he'd been spending a lot of time in the depths of the library where the Gremlins parlay. And Damien Day just sucked it all up. He got all of the information. It was like, well, Caesar's going to be a very, very happy man.
And he said that to Dylan.
And Dylan didn't understand what that meant.
Dylan didn't catch anything.
Didn't get it. Just an absolute cretin. If Dylan Gray were here today, I'd cancel him on Twitter.
I think he would be cancelled within hours. So yeah, Damien Day had just received the news of a lifetime. He'd been sent there, immediately got it. Beating his 2 colleagues instantly. They spent 2 days and couldn't get anything. All they got was a little... That's all they got. That's all they got. So he returned to Caesar, all 3 of them, and they gave their reports of the day. Gregory Vaughan saying, I found that there is 56 sections total. That's what he said. Hilary Duff.
What a liar.
What a liar. There was way more. He can't count. He's illiterate and
what a fool.
stupid. But he seemed smart. Hilary Duff obviously giving a very in-depth analysis of the type of materials used to build the place, the staff's habits, blah blah blah. But bloody Damien Day told him the truth about the Gremlins, about where the restricted section was, a bunch of the secrets, which obviously we don't know now because of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
So, off to you, Henry, if you want to recount what happened next.
So, Damien Day had been, he'd learnt this stuff from Dylan, and he had recounted it to Caesar, and as well as recording this to Caesar, he was also just talking about his days when he'd spent just the time by himself in Alexandria, and just hanging about there in the smoking areas of pubs and things.
Yeah. He'd visited most pubs at that point.
He learnt a lot in the various smoking areas of Alexandria. There's the one at the one at the library, and of course there's the one at the Pyramid and Sphinx, which was a famous pub in Alexandria.
Yeah.
And he had met with a group of people who didn't like the library all that much. They thought it was a bit too secretive, and he realized, there's something here. There's if I relay this to Caesar, maybe he can get a little rebellion going on from within Alexandria to but the problem is the main population of Alexandria were morons. They still believed in the fact that the dung beetle pushed the sun over through the sky every day, which
the
is,
four humours. God, stupid.
So they would mainly just be man meat to just the meat shields and all that kind of thing.
That's what you need in a war. You need them meat shields.
Yeah. So that's essentially what they served as. And Caesar, after finally getting all this information, was like, okay, I finally have enough to go and get this knowledge from Alexandria for myself, and I can dethrone Leandra Grey. I can finally get her out, because she's really restricting me in my progress. I'm Roman man. I should be king of everywhere.
Roman man should have most things.
Exactly.
Caesar should have, man. I'm just saying.
Dude, please just.
Sorry.
Can you just? I know you love Caesar, man. Can we just do this another time, man?
We can.
I'm trying to do the Library of Alexandria. Okay, great, thank you. Caesar, Gregory, Hilary, and Damien.
Yes.
They all rock up to the Library of Alexandria. Dylan is out there having a fag, and he just goes, as he would many times a day when he needed his backside cleaned, when he needed
his fifth breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. He's just real mama's boy.
What a fucking dweeb.
Yeah, and Leandra came out with her big. They all wore big purple robes, and she came out, looked over, and saw Caesar, the three spies, and about 56 Alexandrians behind them, all with sickles and chisels, not great weapons, but they had things. Yeah, and Caesar basically was like, "Yo," I'm paraphrasing a bit, but "Yo, hand over the information, or me and my boys are gonna mess your shit up."
And Leandra's response was quite vulgar, if I remember.
I don't think we can say those words. She said
no,
but she
well,
said,
we could say it. We could censor them.
She said a lot of things about how Caesar's nose was a caterpillar, and lots of eggs.
It's disgusting.
Go back to where you came from.
You don't belong here. Dirty.
Pig. So, I don't know how much of that we're going to be able to keep in. I think we're going to have to beep.
That's a large editing job for me.
We're going to have to beep the majority of that, I reckon.
Christ.
But that's I have it written
Trying to
here.
bring you the truth.
Yeah,
As best we can.
Yeah. So Caesar, of course, not too pleased with that. Not very happy with being called all those things said about some very personal things said about him.
Yeah, very. I have a dislike for Leandra for this reason, because I believe that there was a lot of unnecessary jabs, because this was quite a professional meeting. It was, hey, I want this. What do you say? And she went personal, man.
Yeah, I mean, Caesar did bring 56 chiseled, sickle
and they were
wielding.
yelling, "You fucking bitch!" the whole time.
They were very misogynistic. So I mean, I think we have to allow Leandra this outburst, because they were over the line as well. I think it was just a bit of a bad meeting on the whole.
Yeah.
Anyway, Caesar goes back to Rome to go and get the navy to come and just come and like mess their shit up.
Yeah, they weren't ready. Chapter 4: The Fire and the Fury.
It's 5 weeks and 6 days later.
The navy had arrived in Alexandria.
Yeah. And,
armed and ready.
Yeah. Leandra looks out the window one day and is like, oh no. I shouldn't have said all those personal things to Caesar.
Brought up his family into it. I shouldn't have. And so what would happen next?
Well,
would cause devastation.
It's crazy. I mean, Alfie, do you like that film Avengers Endgame?
Oh, it's my favourite film, Henry.
Awful compared to what happened here. This is a much bigger, more CGI filled battle than you'll ever imagine.
Christ.
So there was we didn't explain this before, but on Leandra's desk there was a compartment which arrived there back in the times of George Benson B.
Yes.
When he was running things, and it was like it had written on it like open if in peril.
Yes.
And so she thought, well, I'm in peril. I'm in some peril. I'm gonna have to open it. And inside was a little bell, a little ringy dingy bell. And so she thought, well, I'm gonna have to ring the little ringy dingy bell. And she rings it.
What else am I supposed to do with a little?
She rings it, and she.
What does she hear? What does she hear?
From the other ends of the library, she just hears.
What does she hear? And they started clicking.
It became more rhythmic, and she's like, and so hundreds and hundreds of gremlins, of the book Gremlins. We are told. It's reported.
Yes, like, this is all word of mouth from.
Yeah, from
viewers.
Alexandrians who were not involved in the fight, because of course everything's about to go down. Really.
People were holding their breath. You could hear the
that's
from miles around.
That's the best evidence we have for the Gremlins, I'd say, because that there was a lot of it. There was a lot of that sound.
When you put your ear to a shell by the ocean, that is a very distorted, muffled sound of what the Gremlins
it's sort of
sounded
krakatoa.
like.
Yeah, it's very
because
close.
It got caught into those shells from how loud the booming nature of their cries were.
It's like Krakatoa. Krakatoa could be heard hundreds of miles away. The Beirut explosion could be heard hundreds of miles away. This could be heard hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, this is way worse than.
So much worse. God. Anyway, Dylan cannot be. Dylan's just had his 20.
Probably banging a.
Yeah, he's just finished doing his 56th prostitute of the day. Like what a bell end. Anyway, he's out having a fag out the front of the library, just watching, kind of waiting. He doesn't really understand what's going on.
No,
he's just kind of a bit of a moron. And at the helm of the leading ship in the Navy. Caesar is there, and he's got all his boys.
God, he's just glimmering in that sunlight. The sun is just hitting him.
Alfie, please.
Bouncing off those pecs.
Alfie.
Yeah.
We're talking about tragic. We're talking about tragic events here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We can do a Caesar podcast one day if you want. We can do a Caesar one.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll do a Caesar one. Great. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Anyway, Caesar has got cannons ahead of his time.
Cannons.
Yeah, some of the documents Gregory did pick up a few documents in the military section of the library. They figured out how to make cannons and AR-15s.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So they were ready.
Gun.
Yeah, they were ready.
Yeah.
And Leandra had this group of gremlins now, supposedly, and she's like, okay, right, bring it, okay. You think you can take me on? You think you can destroy this wooden library with the stone marble arch? You can't. I've got all the gremlins.
Yeah.
And then she looks to the side and sees the Alexandrian rebels who were friends with Caesar. They're coming out of the trees. They're like monkeys. They're like swinging. They're like jumping from tree to tree. They're making sounds like that. Yeah, and maybe they were just monkeys. They could have been confused. But we know that the Roman army saw them go into the library, but we know that they never saw them come out. No. So it can only be assumed that the Gremlins utterly decimated them.
Yeah,
just destroyed them.
There's an episode of Diddy, Dick, and Dom, where I think they had like an adventure show where they went and did stuff. They came into contact with piranhas once, and the way they talked about piranhas is the way I imagine the Gremlins, what the Gremlins did to those poor people / monkeys. Yeah. Yeah, they're down to the bone, and then with those bones they used them for implements such as spoons and
book
forks.
Spines.
Book spines. Yeah, they turned them into books.
Yeah.
They wrote the life story of each person on their bones and placed it in the restricted section. But that's all just speculation.
That's all speculation because, of course, the restricted section is
now
it's gone. So
it's gone.
This is going to be the saddest part of the podcast today when we explain exactly how it burnt down. Yeah. a lot of people would have thought maybe Caesar used some cannons and fired it.
If you've been listening to our tone throughout this whole podcast, I think you've seen.
You know who the culprit is.
You know what's about to happen.
There's a clear culprit, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that the man in charge of ruining the world's biggest source of information is none other than Leandra's own son, Dylan Gray, who forgot. For some reason, he's had many fags outside the library and just thought, and chucked it behind him on a particularly dry bit of wood, and the whole place went up
on fire. And see what happened next was very tragic, very unnecessary. Caesar, seeing the eruption into flames that the library went through, just broke down and yelled for his men to charge. His men started charging towards the library. Yeah. Now Leandra, crying, blood-curdling tears.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's trapped in a burning room.
Yeah.
Those tears are sizzling as they hit the floor. Yeah.
She rang that bell, and those gremlins jumped from the fire upon the men of Caesar, and they ripped each other limb from limb. Roman soldier ripping gremlin head off. Gremlin biting down on the ankle of the Roman soldiers. Damien Day picking up AR-15 and spraying down Dylan Gray for no good reason. They actually kind of got on. They spoke for a bit. They were friends.
They had a bit of a rapport.
And that's why he's a wild card.
Yeah.
Because he just picked up that gun, he just sprayed him down, never to be seen again. Now,
Sorry,
Hilary Duff, now she with Gregory Von sneaked off and were never seen again. But as for Caesar, he also did that because that was a fucked situation.
Yeah,
and he wasn't going to win. He just wanted to see the Gremlins,
left.
the people of Alexandria, burn and die at his hands.
And it was the last ship that left when they looked back, all they could see was just a pile of ash, and the Gremlin bodies supposedly turning to ash as well.
Yeah.
Now that their entire work had just gone.
And with one last, they were gone.
Yeah.
And that's
now
that's the
they're
point.
just speculation, you know. It's
nothing,
very upsetting
nothing
that
but
the
conspiracy theory.
It's very upsetting that the great race of the Gremlins has just been people just assume that they're fake now. It's quite sad.
No, it's just all made up. Tolkien stuff. That's all it is.
That's what people assume.
Now,
Right, we have got something very special lined up.
we have a very special occasion today.
And we thought, you know, maybe you've got tired of listening to our voices for however long it's been.
I mean, I know I would.
Anyway, we thought we could get some other experts in, because, you know, whilst Alfie and I are the smartest people in the world, we also
just don't like doing all the work.
Yeah,
so we thought, hey,
it's so much work.
much work we're doing.
Yeah, we'll get our good friend Nicholas Koch in.
Everyone, round of applause to Nicholas Koch.
Yes, hello. So my name is Nicholas Koch. I have a PhD in Alexandrian and Gremlin studies.
Incredible stuff, by the way.
I'm very excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, absolutely. So we just want to ask you a couple of questions. You know, just so what do you of course I hear that you have Gremlin studies on there as well. So are you a firm believer that the Gremlins are the ones who are in charge of building, or do you have any carbon dating research into the true origins of the library itself?
See, now this is interesting because when we talk about Gremlin and the Gremlin labor, because a lot of the grunt work at the Library of Alexandria was done by Gremlins. We often forget that, being extraterrestrial immigrants, they were quite oppressed and exploited by the local people. And there was huge intergalactic tensions between especially human workers and the Gremlin general working class, and especially when certain Gremlins started to make it while working in libraries, or occasionally they'd be hired as deckhands on these ships that would go for miles and miles, and then when they'd get invaded by pirates, Gremlins, having their particular specialities, would find themselves being able to eventually mutiny. And we occasionally found the Mediterranean. There was a slave trade of southern Spanish and Italian people that was done by renegade Gremlins. So, this is a really dark. Yeah, it's a really dark episode of history.
Yeah.
And I remember it was the what was it? Yeah, it was the Cutty Sark. It was the ancient Cutty Sark, because the modern Cutty Sark was the ancient Cutty Sark was like the flagship of the Alexandrian fleet, and it got taken over when the Gremlins working the oars mutinied and just stopped rowing, and so they started being killed one by one. But they couldn't kill them all, because then they wouldn't have anyone to row them out.
So they retreated to the library.
Well, what happened? Not exactly. They stayed. They just didn't row, and then the Gremlin pirate ship managed to capture the Alexandrian flagship, Old Cutty Sark. And when this happened, the rulers of Alexandria were so incensed at the intellectual class for failing to prevent this massive humiliation, that they actually started downsizing and culling the gremlin workforce.
That's horrible.
And that's when the gremlin ghettos. That's when the gremlin ghettos, which aren't really talked about in the history books. You never really don't hear about much about them because the humans were very good at just kind of erasing.
They're suppressing their tail. You know, it's
and so would you say that's why when the library was discovered, do you think that elders of the Alexandrian village pretended not to know about it? Or do you think at that point the history had been wiped out even for the elders of the village?
I think that there was probably older people would have had memory of there being gremlins around, but once gremlins started being ghettoized in internment camps, that's when we started having a young sort of burgeoning elite and also people in the military and stuff that had never seen a gremlin, that had never lived with a gremlin, that had never worked from a gremlin, that had never sucked milk from a gremlin's bum, as was tradition at the time, because they could be incredibly...
Well, because they made a lot of their culinary dishes for like some of their, they claimed that it was their own recipes and stuff, but they were actually, you know, they were taught these recipes by the gremlins.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of embarrassing because there's this one chef, Nigella, who made an incredibly famous cookbook at the time. That actually that was actually using gremlin recipes, and she was claiming that gremlin recipes were her own.
Wow!
But
that's appropriation.
Nigella Lawson does not care about gremlin lives.
No. So last time Pixar cut ties to them, Nigella Lawson, come on.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, is that what she didn't realize was that a lot of these recipes relied on ingredients that only gremlins could produce with their bodies and also with some secret techniques.
Yeah.
So she actually developed an incredibly sophisticated spy network. And she managed to infiltrate and get some of the ingredients. But then once, as gremlin populations became increasingly sparse, especially after the massacre of 46, where a couple of gremlin ghettos were just wiped out. There were no more of these particular gremlin spices.
Yeah.
And she was kind of revealed to be a con. And funnily enough, this actually created a little bit of goodwill towards gremlins. And once people had gotten addicted to what they called the Nigella's recipes, there became a need for gremlins. And so she unintentionally, by stealing from them, saved a lot of gremlins from being exterminated.
That's crazy. Now, Nick, I know you love Alexandria, and I know that last year you took a trip yourself down to Alexandria to go and investigate the supposed ruins. The supposed ruins, because people can't really decide where they are. But you think you found it, right? You think you have found the location. Did you try and explore the catacombs, the tunnels? Did you find anything interesting there?
Right. Yeah. So the thing about exploring the catacombs, it is incredibly dangerous. Because there have been numerous fires throughout the history of the library, and so you have absolutely no faith in these foundations and in these beams that are thousands of years old. So it can be very dangerous. Thankfully, we were able to find some gremlin workers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's still. Are you telling me there's still a society down there?
Well, I can't say too much. Right.
Okay.
But needless to say, the fact that we're still selling Nigella cookbooks should be
says
an indication.
A lot.
Well, the fact that we still have these ingredients means that we must be getting them from somewhere.
Have to get them somewhere.
Now, the government doesn't necessarily want you to know this, but there are reports of gremlins being kept in captivity in certain secret rooms.
Wow.
And so I went into catacombs to investigate. We went with robots, and then when those ran out, we used a couple of gremlins that we managed to find.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And let me just tell you, you haven't you haven't witnessed true bone-chilling horror until you've heard the scream of a gremlin having its juices forcibly extracted from
Can you try and recreate that for us? Because we've had a few remnant sounds of the gremlins here and there in this episode, but...
Yeah. Well, it's very particular because you also have the squelching. So I'll have to get some... I'll have to get some physical aids, I think.
Nick now is just fetching some physical aids to help in the sound.
Yeah.
This is a true first.
He's still going.
It's a true first for us today.
Because that's my rendition. You know, I come as close as I could. The thing about gremlins,
they don't respond well to modern technology.
They're incredibly difficult to record. Every time I've tried recording a gremlin sound, my device just erased all of the data.
Jesus.
It's happened to me
that's
3
how
times.
far the government's going to keep this information for us, and I think it's been a pleasure having you on, Nick. To because what this show is about is delivering facts, delivering truth to the people, which they've been deprived of for years, and so having a person such as yourself on has been really enlightening, and I think it's woken a lot of people up.
In regards to that, I'd just like to remind people that gremlins are sentient beings that are as intelligent, if not smarter than us human beings. And our treatment of them historically and today is nothing short of abhorrent. And we owe it to ourselves to read more about these things and check our privilege as human beings. And as beings that don't systematically have our juices forcibly extracted from us with machines with varying degrees of horror.
Yes, and we have a link in the description of this video to a fund for the Gremlins. We have a charity,
and also to fund my next expedition to the library catacombs.
We will also have another funding.
I think on the Instagram page we'll have a picture of Nick. By the ruins, by the catacombs. That'll be up on the Instagram page if you want to go view that. Just
to see what this brave explorer gets up to.
You gotta put a face to the voice.
And also my book. Don't forget to check out my book, Gongs and Gremlins, Gongy. I was going for something, and I think I was having a bit of a stroke when I sent the title in, but I kind of like it now. You know,
I read your book. I thought it was very interesting.
Oh, you did? Yeah. Okay.
It's a really enjoyable read, everyone. I think it's
thank you.
1,000% recommend it.
Yeah,
it's very.
The link to that or the Amazon link to that will also be in the description. Okay, well it's been lovely having you on,
wonderful.
Nick.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Have you on in the future. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're a very knowledgeable man, so I'm sure we could get you back for any of our studies.
Any other?
Yeah.
And anything else I can become an expert on relatively quickly.
Oh,
he is.
You're a smart man.
I'm the top expert in the world, if I may say so myself.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think Alfie and I are also.
Well, you're not experts. You have a general. You have a wide.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Thanks for coming on.
And that's the end of the episode. I want to say a big thank you to Nick once again for coming on. A big thank you to Onge for making the intro music. And a big thank you, of course, to Henry for starring in this episode, as he will for the rest of them. An amazing man. I want to say go check out the Instagram, go check out the Twitter, especially go check out the YouTube. All of these episodes are on there as well. So if you prefer to listen on YouTube, then feel free to. Also got the animations on there, which you'd really check out because they're really good. Big thank you to Gemma for doing those. She smashes out the park every time. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.